3 gigantic fasting mistakes I've been making. Look, I've been in the health space for 17 years, and I have to admit, I love fasting, but I've been making a huge mistake. I'm going to share with you the top 3 mistakes I've made the last 17 years, and I've seen thousands of people make the same mistakes. Let's start with the first mistake, and that's going to be fasting too much without metabolic preparation. Look, jumping right into a fast while being a sugar burner is not a good idea. You're actually not going to get all the amazing benefits, especially the fat loss you want with fasting. It actually backfires and causes weight loss resistance. When you go into a fast as a sugar burner, it's like trying to run a marathon without training. You'll crash, you'll crave, you'll binge. Research shows that 93% of people in the United States are sugar burners, meaning they rely on glucose for energy. And when you start to fast and you're not used to burning fat for fuel, unfortunately, your body's going to tap into muscle for energy, and you're not going to burn belly fat. You're going to burn hard-earned muscle, which actually wrecks the metabolism. In my brand new book, Metabolic Freedom, I explain how sugar burners struggle with energy crashes and intermittent fasting because their cells are only burning sugar instead of fat. I'm going to share with you what to do to burn fat first so you get all the amazing benefits from fasting, especially the serious fat loss benefits. The first thing you want to do is to create something called fat adaptation. This is the first step. I outlined this in the book. I'm going to share it with you right now. It takes 7 days to do this. It's typically achieved by lowering your carbohydrate intake, eliminating snackings, and I'll give you the exact steps in a minute. But first, I want to make the case that fasting is one of the best ways to tap into belly fat, to reverse metabolic disease like insulin resistance, PCOS, diabetes. As a matter of fact, a 2019 study from the New England Journal of Medicine said the following. It covered over 85 studies done on intermittent fasting, and it said it needs to be the first line of defense for all metabolic diseases. You want to think of fasting as a muscle you build up over time. If you use a chainsaw, for example, which is a powerful tool, just like a fasting is a powerful tool. If you didn't read the user manual for the chainsaw, what's going to happen? You're not going to benefit and get the job done. You're going to hurt yourself. Same thing with fasting. You got to read the user manual. The first step in that user manual is to become fat adapted. When you're not fat adapted and you go into a fast, 12 hours in, 16 hours in, some wicked things are going to happen inside of your body. I already mentioned you're going to break down really important muscle for energy. That's not good. Number 2, your brain's going to panic. When glucose drops in the brain, it'll send the body intense signals for sugar, carbohydrates, chocolate, candy, because it needs to get glucose back up. It doesn't know how to burn fat and use ketones, so you will feel awful. So here are the 3 easy steps that you want to do before you practice too much fasting. I made this mistake in the beginning. Do not make this mistake. First step is to get your total carbohydrate intake under 50 grams total per day. And those 50 total grams of carbs need to come from non-starchy carbohydrates, green leafy vegetables, even things like low glycemic fruits like blueberries. Second step here is to eliminate your snacking so your body gets familiar with lowering insulin, tapping into stored fat. So you start with 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, total carbs under 50 grams. The third step here is to follow the 2-2-2 rule on these first 7 days. Here is the rule. 2 tablespoons of avocado oil or olive oil every single day for the first 7 days. 2 tablespoons of coconut oil or MCT oil every single day for those first 7 days. And then 3 tablespoons of butter or ghee every day for those first 7 days. What's going to happen as you lower your carbohydrate intake, you lower insulin, and then you want to signal to your metabolism, I know you're running low on glucose. I'm doing this on purpose, but here are all these healthy fats, the 2-2-2 rule. Use that for energy. Boom, you become fat adapted. Then when you shift into your fasting schedule, you're not burning muscle, you're burning belly fat. Your body is producing ketones. It's giving your brain a different fuel source so you don't have cravings, you don't feel awful, you actually feel exceptional. Mistake number 2. I've done this a lot. I'm totally guilty. Fasting too much, excessive fasting, excessive what's called autophagy. Let me explain this real quick. We are all guilty of doing something because it's good for you, but too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. Same thing with fasting. Look, even if you're fat adapted and metabolically healthy, if you practice too much fasting, it will backfire on you. Your metabolism will become destroyed. You will weaken your immune system. You will get belly fat. You actually will store too much belly fat because your metabolism thinks you're going through starvation, a famine. There's a sweet spot here, though. I'll explain how to find that sweet spot. When you do too much fasting, you will spike your stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. It's called your sympathetic tone. In short spurts, this is amazing. You feel incredible, you burn belly fat, but with too much fasting, you get what's called the cortisol belly, the stress belly. That is the fat around your belly, your love handles, and that's exactly what you're trying to lose. And fasting too much can actually contribute to that. In Metabolic Freedom, I explain something called hormesis, a hormetic zone. Let me explain this real quick because it's very important. I have this graph in the book, but I'm going to show it here for those watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on the podcast, you'll still get it. In this graph here, it shows you how when you apply a stress, and this example is the stress is being used as exercise, but fasting is also a stress. When you apply a stress and you adapt to that stress, meaning the right amount of fasting and feasting, you get all the benefits. Inflammation drops, you burn belly fat, you stay in what's called this hormetic zone. But you can see here on the graph, when you do too much exercise or too much fasting, you lose those benefits, you stress the body, and you actually store belly fat. So you want to find this hormetic zone. How do you do it? You balance out fasting with feasting. There are two major systems that happen inside of your body in terms of your metabolism. There is a growth phase called the fed state, where you activate a process called mTOR. Now, it stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin. You don't really need to understand that fancy word. All you need to know is this. mTOR means fed state. mTOR means growth. mTOR is anabolic, building up. This is very important in spurts, but too much mTOR, not good. You age yourself faster, you gain weight, it's going to inflame you. This is not a good idea. The opposite of this growth phase is called the fasted state. Autophagy is what happens here. Autophagy is one of the major benefits for fasting. You get rid of damaged cells that are not burning fat for energy efficiently, damaged cells that are not creating energy efficiency, and mitochondria as well. These are battery packs within your cells. Autophagy is like Pac-Man, going within your body, cleaning out that junk, and you activate it through fasting. Autophagy is great, but in too much autophagy, it's too catabolic. But too much autophagy is too catabolic. You weaken the immune system, you break down muscle. There's a sweet spot here. mTOR, which is growth, and autophagy, which is repair, they have an inverted relationship. When one is activated, the other one's deactivated, and vice versa. So what does this mean? For many years, I used to tell people to fast. You need to fast. You need to fast. Now I find that people who practice fasting and who have been practicing it for years, like myself, I need to tell them they need to feast. The feast is just as important as the fast. So the mistake here is that you're doing too much fasting. I'll give you an example. OMAD. Have you heard of OMAD? Do you practice OMAD? It stands for 1 meal a day. Eating 1 meal a day every day, that is not a good idea. You will not burn belly fat. You will weaken the immune system. You'll lose muscle. You can't build muscle, and muscle is very important for fat loss. So instead of doing too much OMAD, too much fasting, you want to balance it out with feasting. You want to make sure on most days of the week, you hit your protein requirements. That'll preserve your lean muscle mass, help you build lean muscle mass, which helps you become more insulin sensitive. It raises your basal metabolic rate, which means your metabolism's ability to burn fat. And by hitting that protein requirement during your eating window, you can get all the benefits of fasting, autophagy, and all the benefits of feasting, and mTOR. So here's what you want to make sure you do. Make sure you get 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight. Meaning, if you currently weigh 180 pounds and your goal weight, your ideal body weight is 140 pounds, on most days of the week, you want to make sure you consume 140 grams of protein. That means if you are doing 1 meal a day, or maybe you have just like a 4-hour eating window and a 20-hour fasting window, and you're not hitting that protein requirement, you may need to expand the eating window a bit to get that protein requirement. If you're hitting that protein requirement, you'll get all the benefits of fasting and all the benefits of mTOR and feasting without any of the drawbacks. It works magically. I've found that people do really well with an 18-6 schedule, which gives you enough time to get that protein and enough time to get the benefits of fasting. 18-6 means out of a 24-hour period, for 18 hours you're fasted, and I'll explain later what you can have in a fast and what breaks a fast. And then for 6 hours, you have your 2 to 3 meals, low carb, protein focused, healthy fats. Mistake number 3, ignoring cellular inflammation, meaning what you eat during your eating window has profound effects on what happens during your fasting window. If you're eating a whole bunch of inflammatory fats, for example, like vegetable oils and seed oils during your eating window, it'll make it a lot difficult to fast because your cells will become inflamed. Your body will have a hard time burning fat for fuel during your fasting window. And these vegetable oils, seed oils are in 80% of our food supply. They make it very difficult to get the benefits from fasting. So I'll give you a list of the bad fats you want to make sure you do not consume during your eating window. Here are 8 of them. I'm actually going to give you 9, a bonus in a second. We have canola oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil. We have sunflower oil, soybean oil, and safflower oil. And then we have rice bran oil and grapeseed oil. Make sure you do not consume those 8 fats during your eating window. And the ninth fat that I recommend you never consume in the form of a supplement is fish oil. It is highly inflammatory. It also makes it more difficult to fast. That's because these bad fats, and it's not just these bad fats, it's the artificial sweeteners you might have during your eating window, like sucralose and aspartame. Not good. It's the processed foods and high fructose corn syrup that creates mitochondrial poison. Not good. When you are eating inflammatory foods during your eating window, it creates cellular membrane inflammation, where your hormones cannot get into the cell and perform the job of producing energy, burning fat. You feel inflamed. It's not good. Here's the analogy. It's like trying to send text messages to your best friend, but their phone is turned off. The message is not received. That's what these inflammatory foods do to you 24/7, but especially during your fasting window. So make sure you eat clean foods during your eating window. Instead of those inflammatory fats I mentioned, switch over to healthy fats. I mentioned them earlier, but I'll give you a whole list here. Butter, ghee, coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, duck fat, and even beef tallow. These are much healthier for you. Instead of the artificial sweeteners during your eating window, have sugar replacements like monk fruit, xylitol, erythritol, and stevia. Now let's get into some of the questions you asked on this topic, which includes what can you have during a fast, how do you know if you're fat adapted, and much more. Now before I get to that, I'll be hosting a brand new free 3-day fat loss challenge, which starts April 28th. And for 3 days in a row, I'll be going live with you for an hour and a half to take a deep dive into how to burn fat for fuel, how to use fasting the right way, ketosis the right way, how to essentially do what I did, where I lost 80 pounds of fat in 9 months without having to rely on willpower or count a single calorie. Join me. We have limited spots available. If you head over to burnfatchallenge.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, you could scan the QR code or click the link in the podcast notes or YouTube notes down below, burnfatchallenge.com. You will secure your free spot so I could take a deep dive with you for 3 days. It's going to be absolutely life-changing. I'm really excited for you to join me. I'll be sharing the principles of my upcoming book, Metabolic Freedom, and it's 100% free. Go sign up right now. All right, let's get to your questions. Question number 1, how do I know if I'm fat adapted? Okay. The best way to know if you're burning fat instead of sugar for fuel and if you're ready to increase your fasting window, the best way is to test your blood ketones. Okay, when you are in ketosis, this is signaling that you're not a sugar burner anymore. You're burning fat for fuel. There are 3 ways to test your ketones. There are 3 different ketone bodies, and that makes sense. So there's acetone, which your breath expels. It's a ketone body. There's acetoacetate. Your urine you expel through urine, and then there is beta hydroxybutyrate. So that means we could measure through urine strips, we could measure through breath meter devices, and we could measure through blood. The gold standard is blood. I'm not a fan of urine strips because it's not going to really be that accurate when your cells are really efficient at using ketones. Breath meters could be okay, but the gold standard is blood. I use a device called Keto Mojo. It's a finger prick device where you prick your finger with the Keto Mojo. You put the little drop of blood on a ketone strip, put it into the meter, and it gives you a score. If you see your ketones at 0.5 millimoles per liter or higher, you're now fat adapted. Like you are ready to fast. fasting game on. Increase that fasting window. If you don't see ketones, you got to keep doing some work to get fat adapted. And you could get a Keto Mojo with a discount over at ketocampmachine.com. Camp with the K, ketocampmachine.com. The coupon code is KETOCAMP24 for 15% off. We'll drop that link down below. Question number 2, is it okay to fast every single day? I mentioned the balance of fed state and fasted state. I think most days are great for fasting, but I intentionally have a 1 day per week where I don't fast. And I'll be taking a deep dive into this. It's called a metabolic flex day. So during that 3-day challenge, you'll learn more about how to incorporate this when you're ready to do this, because you don't do it right off the bat. So go get signed up for the challenge over at burnfatchallenge.com. But I'll say this, after about a month of some consistent fasting, you want to start throwing in at least 1 day a week of no fasting where you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner and actually increase healthy carbs. It's called a metabolic flex day. Next question, what breaks a fast? What liquids are acceptable during a fast? First, we need to define what does it mean to break a fast. So to me, the definition of breaking a fast is twofold. Number 1, when you raise glucose, because when you raise glucose, you lower autophagy. Number 2, when you start the digestive processes. Okay, coffee. Number 1 question I get asked, does black coffee break a fast? Well, I've had hundreds of people ask this question and I've had them test a certain way to find out for sure. The most accurate way to know is to test your blood glucose right before the coffee and then 45 minutes after. If you see your blood glucose go up 5 points or higher, the answer is yes, it's breaking your fast. You're losing some of the autophagy benefits. But if you see the blood glucose stay the same or drop, it's safe for your fast. It's different for everyone. And that Keto Mojo that I mentioned earlier could test blood glucose as well, so you know for sure. What about tea? Tea is safe during a fast as long as it is unflavored, unsweetened. Tea is safe. Now, water and electrolytes are very important to have during a fast. In terms of supplements, yeah, you could have supplements during a fast. I don't recommend that, especially fat-soluble supplements like vitamins A, D, E, and K. Those need to be taken with food, especially fatty food, to increase the absorption. Sometimes when you take it on an empty stomach, like during a fast, it can make you nauseous. So I wouldn't recommend these fat-soluble vitamins during a fast, or even antioxidant supplements like resveratrol or turmeric during a fast. I would recommend that with a fatty meal. Next question, how do I reduce cellular inflammation? That is the key. If you reduce cellular inflammation, you're going to extend your lifespan, you're going to have more energy, you're going to fix metabolic diseases like high blood pressure, PCOS, prediabetes, insulin resistance, diabetes, even autoimmune conditions. So I already gave you a few tips on how to start doing this. Get rid of the bad fats, get rid of the artificial sweeteners. Sleep is a big player here. Identifying your toxic load is a big player here. During my 3-day challenge with you, that free burn fat challenge coming up, I'll be going over the key things that I've done and done with 5,000 plus people all across the world to lower their cell inflammation. So make sure you join me so we can take a deep dive together over at burnfatchallenge.com. Next question, what are your thoughts on long fast, 3 days or more? I love them, but you gotta prepare for it. This is not for somebody who's new. But when you go without food for 3 days or longer, it's incredible. I'll give you a short timeline here. Look, the first 14 hours in a fast, you lower insulin, which is important for burning fat. You complete digestion, and now energy is being diverted away from digestion to healing the body, to the brain, so you're more productive. 16, 17 hours into a fast, you get that autophagy cellular cleanup process where Pac-Man is going within your cells, cleaning out the junk. 24 hours into a fast, your body is raising human growth hormone. Studies show that there's a 2,000% increase in this fat-burning anti-aging hormone called human growth hormone in men after 24 hours of fasting, and a 1,300% increase in human growth hormone after 24 hours in women. There's also your gut repairing itself 24 hours in. So if you deal with acid reflux, bloating, GERD, huge gut benefits 24 hours in. 36 hours in, there's a surge in ketones. You start melting stubborn belly fat. 48 hours in, you reset your dopamine receptor sites in the brain where you're happier, more satisfied, and it mitigates these addictive behaviors to drugs, sugar, alcohol. Now, as you go 72 hours into a fast, you completely regenerate your entire immune system. There's a huge stem cell surge. I'm a fan, but you don't just jump into a long fast. You build it up. Think of fasting as a muscle that you build up 16 hours, 24 hours, and eventually get your way there. I have a ton of content on these long fasts and how to do it the right way. And during the challenge, I'll go even deeper with you. Next question. I get hungry during a fast and it freaks me out and it causes me to break the fast. What can I do about hunger? This is a really important lesson. I want you to understand that hunger is just a hormone and it's normal. It's not bad for you. It's really healthy for you. It's an antioxidant. So the hormone is called ghrelin. Ghrelin is like a gremlin. It makes noise. You don't want it to be around. It's not comfortable, but it's actually really healthy for you. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, like all hormones, are pulsatile. It goes up, it goes back down. So keep yourself busy. Go for a walk, drink some water. After a few minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, the hunger will go away. So look at hunger as a good sign, not something that is bad. You now understand the science of fasting, the mistakes I've made. I hope this is going to well equip you to get the amazing benefits of fasting, fat loss, autophagy, gut healing, brain performance, all the amazing things. I love fasting. I think it's nature's reset button. You harness the innate intelligence, do it the right way. Share this episode with a friend. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. And hey, if you love this lesson, I just published a really controversial video. It's taken off here on YouTube on the 5 vegetables that cause inflammation and weight gain. Check out this clip. I'll see you in that video. Spinach. You've seen it everywhere. Spinach in salads, spinach smoothies, spinach omelets. But did you know that spinach contains a high amount of a nasty anti-nutrient called oxalates? Oxalates are tiny little crystals that poke holes in your gut, leading to inflammation